starting on my Discord. Okay. Okay, close this one. That's me. Let me double check if everything is working fine. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Double check. Oh, it's working. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Let me sit into my original position. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let us know if we can start, if the video and audio quality is good. There is no FPS drops in my stream, no lag. Please let me know, and then we can actually start. So many keyboards here. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know. I will double check it myself as well, just to be sure that there is no lag or some. I will double check it myself. Issues. Well. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's no lag or some. Double check it. Okay, it seems everything is working perfectly. Okay, my friend, let me know if we can start. If you're up to start, let me know.
Absolutely. Let's get cracking.
Okay, perfect. So welcome everyone in my very new episode of my Dev Live show. Today I'm joined with the creator of Asphalia games, Asphalia Anger and Asphalia Fear. I would like to say first of all that I'm very thankful and really honored that you joined us for today's episode. Like I'm always saying, thank you. Like I'm always saying, let's start, by the way, with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Okay, so I'm Jean-Gobert de Coster. I'm founder of Studio Fantomata and creator of Asphalia, Anger and Fear, and also of an educational card game about emotions as well. But that only exists in French, so that would not be very helpful here. But yeah, what can I say? I started the studio because I have two daughters. One was back in the days 4 and 6, and I couldn't find any games that were good for children but also fun to play along with as adults. And either they were too difficult and I'd enjoy them, but my daughters wouldn't, because they couldn't, they were really bad with the controllers, and too much frustration, so it wasn't a pleasurable time to have together. Or they were just too dull for me. And my phone is calling me, but I'm just gonna tone it down. So yeah, and so I wanted to change that and bring back what I think is the essence of video games, which is family entertainment at the origin. And to offer an experience that parents could share with their children, even if they are not gamers, but they could have a good time with. And one of the things I like to do as a father with my children, and I think that is something that is universal to all parents, is to tell stories. So I wanted to do something revolving around storytelling, and that's how it quickly became obvious to me that I wanted to make point and click adventures.
I see.
Because I had such fun memories of my youth playing those games, talking with my friends about it, discussing it with my brothers and sisters, and yeah, that's where it all started. And yeah, 4 years later, here we're about to release the second episode, so I'm very grateful for that, and hopefully we will be able to do some more.
Nice. I can relate to this topic, by the way, that there is less and less educational games nowadays, because like you told us, it's very true that back like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when I was a kid, I remember there were so many like educational, especially point and click adventure games, right? There were so many like Disney and Humongous Collection with the Freddy Fish Collection and Pot. They were also like educational point and click games. Yeah, I love those. Yeah.
Yes, they were educational, but they were not like educational.
Yes, they were fun educational games.
Fun.
Yeah. They weren't preaching you anything.
Yeah, and I think that's something that educational games can and should be cool and fun,
True, true, true,
and
true,
it shouldn't be like a layer of fun that
true,
is put
true,
around an
true,
educational
true, very
subject.
true,
It
very
should be the
true.
opposite. You make something fun and you turn it into something that you can learn with.
True.
That's my view
I
anyways.
agree with you. I agree with you on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that honest opinion about this topic. Thank you, I appreciate that. So my very first question would be, what was your very first contact with video games as a player, if you remember those
Oh,
times of your past?
oh, it actually, I've tried several times to remember what was the first game I've ever played,
Okay,
and I think I think it was a game named Hero,
okay,
Hero,
okay.
where you would be on you would be you're a guy and you're going into caves with a portable helicopter
I
kind of
see.
thing, and you had some lasers getting out coming out of your eyes, and I played that on a friend's Commodore 64. uh, but it could also be some Atari games. I'm not sure because like it's really fuzzy. I can't really remember what was the first game I played. But yeah, uh, what really I really loved it, of course. And one day, my father bought a Commodore 64, and actually no, he already had one, but we were not allowed to use it. But then he bought a Commodore 128, and so I got to uh, I got to have the Commodore 64, and he taught me how to start games, and yeah, and then you just go to your friends and say, "Hey, do you have a disc?" You could share discs because I had a disk
True,
drive, so I
true,
could
true, true.
copy things. Oh yeah, back in the time, by the way, piracy was completely rampant. It's bad today, but back in the days, it was like, and you'd think otherwise because it was all physical, right? But
True, true, true,
you could like subscribe to receive tons of diskettes,
true,
tons of discs by
true,
mail on a weekly basis.
true.
So we'd play like
And
all
it
kind of
wasn't a big
games.
thing. I remember as a kid, I wasn't even realizing that we are playing with pirated copies of the disc, right? So it's
Yeah, I mean, everyone. It was how everyone was playing,
true, true,
so we
true,
didn't
true,
think much
true,
about it.
true, very
And
true.
it's not like you could find the games elsewhere, anyways,
Exactly,
because you'd
exactly,
have the
exactly,
magazines with all those games, but there was no
exactly,
shop that would sell them. So,
exactly. Especially in Europe, in my opinion, it was a huge
yeah,
problem, right? So I remember that there were like very few shops that were selling games, and even it was very rare to find those games that I wanted to buy reading from a magazine, right? That's, for example, I wanted to play with this or that, and they weren't selling those discs, just the pirated ones. So yeah,
yeah, because they were the computer shops. They were more stuff for professionals. So
true,
yeah,
true,
they would sell all the software they'd sell would be word processing stuff.
true,
Excel wasn't a thing yet.
true.
So it was like something named Word Perfect at the time.
Yeah,
You had to do all by
it was
hand.
like the origin of everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good old school times, yeah. Yeah, I miss those times, by the way. I miss those times. I always say this that I
Oh
miss
yeah.
those times a bit. Yeah.
Nostalgia hits you every corner.
True, true, very true, very true, very true. But I can see the heritage, by the way, that you mentioned that you're doing the games for your family and for your children, and like the heritage from like your father gave you the console to play, right? So that mentality, that mindset of the family-oriented games and being together and playing games. I respect that, by the way. I respect that.
I'd say video games made me really. There's actually a few Netflix shows. I don't know if they're around there anymore, but that was like the games that made us, the toys that made
Oh,
us,
okay.
the movies that made us, and it was a really interesting series because it talks all about my childhood. I mean, I was born in 1978, so I witnessed the rise and fall and rise again of video games, uh, and it was a really fun time. You'd go to your friends, and because one has a Mega Drive, which is the Sega Genesis, but in Europe that's how it was called, or another one had a Master System, another one had an S. Oh, you got a Super Nintendo? Oh, cool. Oh, but I got a Commodore 64. I got many, many games because those who had consoles, they only had like a few. So, And yeah, so many fun memories. I
True,
mean,
true, very
I
true.
could go on and on.
True. Now people just play online, right? And it's not the same experience, sadly.
Yeah, it's different, but they
It's
still
different,
connect.
yeah. True, true, very true.
It's nice to
True,
see people connecting through any media, and I mean, we have to recognize that the world is changing. We cannot go back
true,
to how it was.
true,
It would be pointless.
true,
Uh, but still, we can still do things with the same spirit.
true, true, very true. Somehow I feel though that nowadays, that I always say this, that nowadays, since the gaming in general from the player perspective grow into like a trend phase, or trend scene, and everyone playing video games, it's a bit different. I feel like the passion is not there anymore in a lot of souls, in my opinion, as for the video games. And it's sad
You
because
mean
I feel
in
like,
terms of creators,
no, not the
or in
creators, for
terms of
the from the
players?
player's perspective. Yeah, from the player's perspective, it's not that much that they have that core passion for loving video games. I feel like those people who grow up loving video games, they still have that passion, or some of them who like grow up and really went into this adult form, losing their inner child, they like burnt out from video games, is what I see from my experience. And also I see that those people who went into gaming in general from the player's perspective nowadays, they are more into like games that like, I don't know, it's just their hobby, not like a passion, not like, do the research about games, try to, find every game to play, and play with different games, not just with one genre or something. They're not reading about games like we used to in the magazines, like you were talking about that. So for me it's very weird, because like with these people, from my experiences, it's very hard to like have those discussions about certain video games, because they're even not familiar with those games, or they do not care at all. Like they play one game for like 10 years and that's all. And for me that's very weird, because like it's really shows the lack of the passion for their hobby, as they say, right? So
Well, I kind of get I kind of understand what you're coming from with this. I don't completely agree with it though. I think there's still a lot of passion about games because you can see like really wide and vocal communities
true, true,
gather
true,
around
true, true,
specific games.
true, it's
Uh,
true.
but one thing that has indeed changed is the way games are monetized, and because of that, the way games are consumed has
True,
changed
true,
also
true,
dramatically. And it's all about keeping the users, keeping that monthly active users,
true,
and
true, true, true,
retention and all
true,
of that. And because of this, people play less games because, I mean, back in when I was a kid, you'd never play a game for 1,000 hours.
true.
But here, some people have like 2,000, 3,000, sometimes 10,000 hours on a
One
single
game,
game,
yeah, true.
which is, I mean, I got a few games like that. I'm a big XCOM 2 fan, so I've got like almost 2,000 hours on XCOM, but that's the only game like that. But yeah, games do keep your attention and your time, and
True,
so people
true,
play less. They play more because I mean the amount of hours people play games is really through the roof. But they play less games, and I actually teach game programming in college, and my first year students, they have a very narrow gaming culture. Um, they know like their basics, but they don't know they know the big games that everybody knows. But it's rare to hear them talk about that one little game that they play and that no one else knows about. So it's funny the other day I was like going showing them my Steam library, and one said, "Oh, you know Dicey Dungeons?" And I said, oh yeah, it's a pretty cool game." And they say, "Oh, because I thought no one knew of that game." Because they had to they in their game design course, the teacher showed them Dicey Dungeons as an example of game design, and they were like, "Oh, there's actually people who do play that game." They thought like that the teacher was kind of showing them a game that no one knew about. So I told them, "Well, you can look at a game's amount of reviews, and this gives you an idea of how many people play the game. So yeah, Dicey Dungeons, you got like a few 10,000 reviews, so that's actually pretty good.
True, true, true,
Of course, it's nothing compared to. So I showed them some other games like Balatro. Oh, Balatro, you got you got a lot more reviews, so you know that it's been sold a lot more. And so it gives you an idea that of the perception, but it's like it's also like knowing a famous YouTuber, for example.
true,
Like, okay, there's YouTubers who have like 22 million subscribers, but you've never heard of, and it's the same,
true. Very
Uh,
true, very
other,
true.
but to the contrary of video games, like when you're on YouTube, or when you're on social media, you kind of go from one content to another, so you consume
True,
a lot of different contents for shorter periods of time, where games is like long periods of time,
true,
with less different content, which is what makes it really hard for indie developers to find success, because even if you do have a very good game, people are so drawn to the games they're playing that, yeah, it looks cool. I'm gonna wish list, but I'm not gonna play it because I got something else to do. And
true,
I can
true,
understand that, but that's one of the issues we have right now. So many games come out all the time, so there's more
true,
games
true,
that are
true, true.
released on a daily basis than ever. But there's less games that are being played by people, more and more. So
Yeah, and people are not even finishing story-oriented games. That's what I see. It's a lot of causing effects are there behind that, especially like I feel like the promotion and also like what you said is very true. Like they want very quick responses, very quick like success from video games. And if they fail in a story-oriented game, they might go through another game or like go back to their original favorite game and play with that for so many hours. And yeah, I don't know. It's for me at least. I feel like for me, from my perspective, it's just a bit sad because like when I was a kid, I remember that's or at least that's how I remember. Maybe that's nostalgia. Is that like me and my surroundings, like my friends and school students, were like way more positive about video games and way more open about video games. I remember like some of us like brought the magazines which were sold here in Hungary. Like one of them were called Playzone. They weren't even have scores back that time about their reviews. There were just like reviews, talking about the games. And I remember that what was interesting about those magazines that they tried to like review all the games that was out there at the PlayStation 2 era and the PlayStation 3 era. And for me, which is what is weird nowadays, that yes, it's correct that there are so many games releasing per month, per year, per week, per day, but I feel like the media is not like paying enough attention to really like promote these games enough, because I feel like if there would be like that high of how to say similar and really like educational magazines that like teach you that hey, this game is out there, like you said, Dicey Dungeon, maybe more people know about it, right? And the more people you reach about your game, even just about a little information about it, the more chance that you will gain a bigger audience who will start to realize that hey, maybe this game is appealing to me, or maybe I will like this game, give it a try, right? But if there is no promotion, like you said, it's very true that even a big AAA game or a very small indie game won't be recognized because people don't know about it. And in my opinion, it's very sad because I saw so many people, like for example, just on my Twitch channel, when I stream some small games or some AAA games, like people like were, hey, this game exists, I didn't know about it, and was like, yeah, it exists, like that's why I'm showing it to you, like try it out if you want. There are demos, right? There is almost every game has a demo right now, which is very cool. Back at the day we had to like use this for demos. And yeah,
we back in the days we had shareware.
true, 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 true,
Shareware was the coolest stuff, right?
true,
You'd
true.
get that CD with like so many games
Exactly,
on it,
exactly,
and when you
exactly,
buy a magazine, you have a CD with it with so
exactly,
many games you could try. I
exactly.
mean, but there's I think it's it's a two-way
True,
thing,
true,
right?
true. Very true,
As a
very true.
developer, you cannot really complain that your game is not known if you
True,
don't try
true.
also
Very
to make it
true.
known.
Very true,
And
very
it
true.
but it's one thing that, like, you have to learn, and it takes a long time. So
True,
for Asphalia Anger, I was just happy to have finished the game and to have released it, and I've only then tried to figure out, okay, how do I sell it? And so here I've learned, and I've gotten in touch with more people to help me figure out, okay, how do I get people to know my game, and how do I not spend $1 million doing that? Because of course, if you compare yourselves and the means that you have at your disposal to get to make sure people know your game, you don't play the same game as bigger studios. You have to make connections
true,
with people who are going to be able to get you to the higher level,
true, very true.
and you'll start with some small influencers, and then they'll tell you, oh, but I know a bigger one, and now I know a bigger one, and by those connections, kind of get there slowly. But yeah,
True.
it's still difficult, though. I wouldn't
It's
say I
difficult,
have
and it
mastered
always,
any of that yet.
yeah, and I also feel like because of the fake or dead internet, as they say, is that
Mm,
there are so many, like, these botted views on YouTube and on Twitch and on every platform, especially on TikTok. It's also like this fake engagement from the content creators, like, who make these very huge numbers, and only a few people like really pay attention to that stream or to that video. Because I saw a very like educational video about this, that there were some very famous like video game journalist websites who had, like, I don't know, millions of views, but they weren't like really real people back then. And even now it's very true, it's a problem. And it also shows that I don't know it. So like you said, it's a two-sided thing. There is very good things about it and very bad things about it. And in my opinion, we could really form it into like a better like outcome for every video game, because I feel like every video game with its vision that the creator always intended to have in that game always could find audience, a bigger audience. It's just really about, like you said, very true, about the promotion, and also find those ways to get to your audience, or to realize who your audience is, and to reach out to those people. But it's hard at the end of the day, right? So there are so many people out there, and you will
yeah.
never know. And I also believe that nowadays what switched is that I feel like the long-term promotion is more accessible for developers, because back like 10 years ago I feel like it was short-term promotion, like you promoted your game as a AAA or in the studio, and people realized that it's out there because there weren't that many games and there weren't that many players, right? So it was a core audience, and the core audience of the developers as well. And nowadays, since every scene, the player scene and the developer scene, grow into this very big numbered community, I feel like it's a long-term promotion, like a long-running circle of promotion for years. Like there was Among Us, which like failed at the very beginning of its release. Then it like slowly started to grow its audience. Then it also again failed, and after like I don't know COVID, like during COVID or after COVID, like 2 years, it like started to rise up for very high numbers because streamers picked up during the COVID time, and it like promoted itself, and bam, and the game again went viral and successful. So I believe that long-term promotion is very accessible nowadays for developers. It just, they really have to go back to their older projects, right, to promote it.
Yeah, I think there's also a question. There's also always a question of chance, and I mean,
True, true, true.
but you have to. The thing about luck is that uh, luck is not going to happen if you're not going to lay
Exactly,
the if you're not going to plant some seeds, right?
exactly, exactly,
So you have to do that.
exactly,
That's the minimum service you have to do to your game if you wanna
exactly.
if you want it to succeed. But then, yeah, you could pick a release date, and then, oh, actually, it's a really bad day to release because, but you don't know because so many other games come out at the same time,
True,
and one specific game that has everyone's attention uh steals the show, and you don't get visibility, and
Even
then
if you
you
don't
just
want
get
to compete
very,
with that game, right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
that's true.
also, like you said, identifying your audience and figuring out how to how to connect with it, with
True,
the way you promote the game,
true,
which is, depending on the game, can be really hard. Like, for example, my audience is mostly children, people who like wholesome games, and parents. But also, there's a bit of childhood professionals who might want to use the game as, like a psychiatrist who maybe use the game for a few minutes before the session to put the child at ease, and then discuss their emotions and
true,
discuss the
true,
game
true.
through it, or something like that. So you have several different audiences. You have to figure out, okay, how do I make something that kind of speaks to those, and how do I articulate a message to each of them specifically? Because if you speak to a broad audience, you're going to touch no one.
True,
That's
true,
also one of the things. So you
true,
have to
true,
actually figure out the different messages that you want to bring forth, and then uh, how you are going to get those people to hear your message, which is yet another question. Like, okay, if you're gonna discuss a game, if an influencer is gonna talk about your game, what kind of audience does that influencer have, and how do you frame your game to that influencer, so that he sees it as, oh, okay, I know how to talk about it to my audience. So that's all. That's a lot of things to figure out, of course.
true,
Uh,
true.
and yeah.
Okay. So going back to the original question of mine, when we talked about like what were your first contact or contacts with video games as a player, what was that first tick or light bulb moment when you realized that, okay, I love playing video games, but I also would like to work on video games, and how it all started? You started to talk about this a bit at the introduction section, but I would like to hear more about that because I'm interested in that too.
Well, I think I've always wanted to make video games ever
Okay.
since I played one at first. But I'd say, like, the first time I thought, okay, I'm gonna try and make one, was actually still when I was very young.
I see.
But so the programming language on Commodore 64 is BASIC, a special version of BASIC. And I had received a programming book, because back in the days, you'd get programming books. So you'd write your own little game program. So the first games I made were like text-based games,
I
and
see.
it's just like a hangman game where you have
Nice.
to guess, and you have so many lives, uh, or and but it wasn't graphical yet. And then my dad bought a huge book that was called Adventure, and it was a book, and it was almost entirely code. So the
I
thing
see.
is, it's a game, but you have to type it. Uh, we never ever managed to get it to work, of course, because, oh, syntax error. And back in the days,
Oh,
like
there it was.
nowadays, it's a lot easier to program than it was back then,
True, true, true,
because you have so many tools that tell you exactly where the mistake is,
true.
whereas there it's like syntax error. And you're like,
Yeah, to
okay,
figure out on your own without
where
help.
is it
Yeah,
wrong? Yeah. So but I think it's something that, happened
I
progressively.
see.
But I never really got around to make a game. That's something that only happened a lot much later.
I see.
It was in 2009. So I had finished my studies. I had worked for as a software. So I studied computer science, and I worked as a software engineer, first in a big company, working in telecoms,
I see.
and then in some smaller startups. But it was in 2008. That was during the crisis, and it was a bad time to actually start working in a brand new startup,
I see.
because well, they had to let me go. And then I figured, you know what, I'm sick of software engineering, because I wanted to do something creative, but you're not really asked to be very creative when doing software engineering. You mostly take something that already exists and try to make things work in a different way, or in a way that corresponds to the business rules. And I was sick of that, and I thought, I'm going to do some Flash games because back in the time, Flash was still a thing. So I bought a Flash license. I started doing a launcher. You know, those were the games at the time where you throw a stick and you try and get it to go as far as you can. Then you get some points. You can some use the money in the bank and be a better stick thrower.
True,
So I
true, true.
created a game
All the
in
mini click
Flash called
games.
Eo the Stickman. So that was kind of the first game that I kind of put out there. It's no longer out there,
Oh, okay.
by the way, because it was never really finished. But the thing is, I'm a programmer and I'm not really an artist, so I started being very interested in mechanics,
I
and
see.
that's when I discovered Unity. Because I was interested in how can I do more complex physics in my game, and I discovered Unity, and I kind of fell in love with the game engine. I bought a book because still at the time you could buy some books
True, true,
and
true,
learn
true.
a game engine. You know, it wasn't like, I'm not going to look at a tutorial, because there were no tutorials.
No YouTube
And
videos
and
about it.
Yeah, yeah. But it was fun, and
True.
so the book was all about learning how to create an adventure island where you have to where you have the goal is to light a fire on the island, and you have to find some stuff. You have to do some trials to unlock this
I
and
see.
that, so you can get the fire going. That was like the first game I made with Unity. And then I spent a lot of time just learning Unity and doing game mechanics. But not being an artist, I never released anything. Um, but then I got into some communities, game programmer communities, and we started doing some game jams. So that's a good way also, when you're not an artist as a programmer, to find artists, is to do some game jams. Always fun. And then COVID struck, and that's when I had my two daughters. We spent lots of time together at home, and I wanted to share my passion with them, which was video games. And that's how it all went. Like, okay, I
I
want to
see.
make a game for them. And coincidentally, at that time, I had a chance to take part in a coaching program to start your own studio. And so I joined the program. They said, "Oh, you have 3 months to make a game and present it to investors." I say,
I
"Okay,
see.
I'm game." Uh, I have no team, so I'll have to find a team. As it turns out, putting together a team is probably one of the hardest things, because you have to first meet the right people, and also have the same be able to have a vision that they share with you, and that they want to go the length with you. So it took me about 9 months to put the team together,
I
and
see.
actually a bit more, because back then I was still doing the programming. um, but I quickly figured that actually there's just way too much work running the studio. I didn't have time to do the programming properly, and so, like, people were actually the project was being delayed because I didn't have the time. So I found a programmer, and now, yeah, we that team worked with me for over 3 years. Then
Nice. Nice. Do you believe, by the way, in perfect synergy between team members, or do you think like is it something that develops out through the process of working together? Speaking of this topic.
uh, yeah, I think, like, everyone perfect synergy is boring, right?
Okay. True. It's
you
true.
got
It's
you got
true.
to, you got to
It's true.
because if you feel that everything is going super smoothly, then maybe there's not enough challenges,
True. True. True.
in a
True.
way.
True.
And yeah, I think we share the vision, but I'm still the stakeholder for that vision. So first of all, I'm the boss and they're my employees. So that's a relationship that's not always easy to find, but because of course I want to be friends with everyone, but I
True,
also
true.
have sometimes to say no, this is my
To
decision,
be the
and if you,
boss,
even if
yeah,
you disagree,
yeah.
and yeah, sometimes we scream at each other, and then we
But
make
sometimes that
peace, you
helps,
know.
right? So you have to argue with
Yeah,
someone to like,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I always have. I'm an idea machine, so I always have ideas. But if you have so many ideas, you also need people to confront those ideas and say,
true, true,
I think it's a bad idea, you know. And
true,
then if I can defend my bad idea, then maybe it's not that bad of an idea. But if I cannot defend it, then obviously, okay, yeah, you're right. It's not a great idea.
true.
Let's move away from that or explore some other things, you know. So that's what matters, and also to find people who are, especially in an indie studio, who are not afraid to get out of their comfort zone, because like okay, you're an artist, but listen, I need you to do the integration of the art into Unity, because so that the programmer can take that time to do the programming. Oh, I've never used Unity before. Oh well, here's how you do. Okay, and then they learn using Unity, and they become they develop new skills, but for that they have to have the confidence that they can, and they have to trust you that they can.
True.
So that's really like the hardest thing, is to find the right people uh, who are um, who are going to go that extra length.
I see. I see. A more personal question, what I wanted to ask before is that do you believe that your family members, even parents and close friends, were supportive about this decision that you are making the first step into working on your own games? How do you feel about this?
My wife has been very supportive,
I see.
and she's actually now integrated the company. She's doing
Okay.
office work for me. She's helping me a lot with all
Nice.
the paperwork and getting the pays going and all that. And when we are going to a convention, she goes with me, and she actually she spoke to Ubisoft.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because we were like we were at Gamescom, and I had a booth there, but I had an appointment somewhere else, so she was keeping the booth when I was not there. And so people came around and played the game, and they asked some
I
questions,
see.
and she answered, and she talked, and she kind of sold the game, and they're, oh, okay, cool, cool. And they stayed like for 45 minutes, and then just as I arrived, they were leaving. I say, "Oh, yeah, these guys, they gave me their cards," and I look at the cards. It's a Ubisoft. So I say, "Oh, they're people for
Okay.
Ubisoft." Okay, nothing
Nice.
nothing happened from that, but I was like super proud of
True,
uh,
true, true,
of,
true,
of her being able to do that without me, and
true.
defending the game, and showing, because she's not a gamer like at all. Like
I
she
see.
doesn't understand at all what the interest in game is. Like when I play Hades, for example, I go, oh, well, if you get mad, why don't you just stop? And I say, well, getting mad is the point.
Very
But
true,
yeah,
very true.
so yeah, my children, of course, they're very supportive as well, though they do sometimes tell me that I work too much, and they
I
want to
see.
see me more.
I see.
So that's the work life balance is not easy when you make video games, but
I
I
see.
work from home, so there's already that. My mother was a bit more skeptical, but I think she sees that I find some way of self accomplishment in doing what I do,
I see.
and she recognizes it. And so every time I kind of post some news on what I do, she shares it with
Nice. Biggest
her
fan,
LinkedIn
right?
friends, and say, "Yeah, this is my son," you know. So there's some
Nice.
pride in there, and it's always, I mean, yeah, as a child, it always matters when your parents are proud of what
True,
you do.
true,
So
true, very true.
generally speaking, I've got lots of support because people understand why I do what I
I
do.
see.
And like Simon Sinek says, you have to start with the why.
True, true, very true, very true. Do you feel like, by the way, for you personally, it's important to have this mentally supportive surrounding?
I think
people.
it's crucial. It's crucial to feel supported. It's also crucial to have some opposition,
I see.
to have something to question your choices, because if you manage to defend your choices, then you can kind of do your self assessment of, okay, no, I know why I'm doing this, or I know that what I'm doing is the right thing. And so I think it's like that's one of the role of of parents, in my opinion, towards their children, is to oppose them,
True.
uh, because opposing them teaches them to stand up for what they believe they should stand for, right?
True.
And if you don't have any opposition, if your parents just say, "Oh, okay, everything is fine to everything that you do," then they're not doing you a service, because
True.
that's how are you going to know for sure if you're not challenged about it?
True. That's very true. I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for your honesty. I appreciate that again. I really
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, what was, by the way, the influence behind the story itself? Because you were talking about like it was really your motive to like build an educational but also a fun game. But what was the influence behind the story of this whole franchise that you built?
It's many different things.
Okay,
I cannot like pinpoint one
I
specific
see. I see. I see.
thing, but it's really a sequence of developments. So the first
I see.
artist I started working with, and she was not the right fit for the job,
I see.
but she was the first one I hired to discuss things and to try and figure out what the art direction was going to be like. And we still didn't know exactly what kind of game we were going to do.
I see.
So I just knew that I wanted to have something that was story driven,
I see.
and that I wanted it to be very colorful. That's like one of the things, because I knew I wanted something that makes you think of a storybook. I
I
didn't know
see.
what story I wanted to tell yet. And because we were talking about colors, she started discussing with me colors and and how they're sometimes linked to emotions. And there's a book about emotions and colors, which is called the Color Monster, or the Emotions Monster,
Okay.
which is a pretty big book, sold like millions of copies.
Okay. I didn't know about that.
And
I will
then
have to take a
yeah,
look
no, no,
into
it's
that.
like, yeah, oh, it's a big book. Um, and uh, then we started discussing things like grief, emotions, what emotions you go through when you grieve, and what grief is. Because grief is not necessarily about death; it's about change, essentially,
True.
and the fear of that change. And so progressively, uh, this gravitated towards talking about emotions.
I see.
And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to talk about emotions, I'm going to have to find someone who can validate that I'm talking about emotions in a way that is correct,
I see.
because I'm no psychologist, I'm no psychiatrist. I understand emotions on a very surface level,
I see.
and and I didn't want to make a game that explains emotions, but I wanted to make a game that shows emotions. That was the thing. And so that's when I found a specialist in emotions. She's a coach, and she goes to schools to learn children to talk about their emotions. And one of the main things that came out of those discussions around the story was that emotions have a message for you. And
True.
accepting your emotion is about taking the time to listen within uh, what it's telling you.
True.
And so that's what Asphalia is about, actually. It's about a message that Charlie needs to discover.
I see.
It's not like it's not something that we say explicitly in the game, but it's around that idea, around that notion that everything is articulated. And then from there, okay, an emotion is a journey within. And then what I wanted was to also show emotions as something that is not necessarily a negative, not also not necessarily always positive as
I
well,
see.
but
I see.
something that is just alive.
see.
and that fear is not something that is uncomfortable all the time, and that anger is not a place where everything is like dangerous, but you have those elements that are there. There's a volcano in anger that's about to destroy everything. There's a
True.
growing shadow in fear that is
True.
kind of destroying everything, because destroying everything is kind of the idea
True.
of the. And I also didn't want to have like a big enemy, because your emotion is not an enemy. It's, once again, it's a message.
True.
That's the
You
main
have to learn
idea.
from it, right?
Yeah, listen to it and learn from it.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Back then, when you like realized what will be the core story of your game or games, back then, did you already know how many like episodes and how many emotions would you like to make games around those emotions? Like there is anger, fear, but like back then, did you know already how many emotions
Yeah.
and what kind of emotions would you like to make the center of your games?
Yeah. Back to the subject of grief. There's a psychologist in the year 70s, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross,
Okay,
who described the different steps that you go through when you grieve.
I see.
And there's 7 steps, if I remember
I
correctly.
see.
There's first an initial shock where you discover this change in your life, this disruption in your balance. And then there's denial, where you don't want to actually see that thing is happening. And then there's frustration, so frustration leading to anger. So this initial shock and frustration and anger and denial is very much treated in Asphalia Anger,
I
in the
see.
prologue of Asphalia Anger.
I see.
And then after this anger comes what is called the negotiation phase. And negotiation is essentially not wanting to move on, which is fear, right? Fear of what's next, because fear is something that prevents us from moving.
True.
And so that idea of being blocked by shadows that block your path, and Lily, uh, the sidekick in the story, being that drive that allows you to go beyond those stopping moments. That was the vehicular idea
I see.
behind Asphalia Fear. And
I
then
see.
after that negotiation, that fear, then comes depression, so sadness, which is going to be the third episode
I see.
if success wills it. Uh, and then later comes acceptance, which is then joy. So that's why I wanted to articulate the whole saga in 4 episodes: anger, fear, sadness, and joy.
I see.
Um, we'll see about sadness and joy.
I
If we
hope I
can
hope
do it.
they will be out
Yeah,
there at some point.
yeah.
I would like to play those as well.
Yeah, sure. I got some. We already got some really great ideas, but yeah, one thing at a time.
True,
And
true,
I've
very true.
also like I want to keep working around that universe, because I soon realized and recognized that, okay, I'm not just making games. I'm developing an IP.
True,
I'm trying to develop something that could grow in other medias as
true,
well.
true,
So
true, true.
that's why we made the educational
Like
card game,
storybooks you mentioned, and also animations,
storybooks.
yeah,
Yeah,
movies, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if that could happen, that'd be really cool. But once again, we have to kind of establish that IP first
True, true,
before people trust us to port it to other medias, of course.
very true, very true. So, by the way, are the episodes alone can like be played, uh, like a standalone episode as well? So,
Yes,
if people haven't played like the very first episode, can they play the second, not
absolutely.
understanding the first one?
So initially, my first idea was to make DLCs,
I
and
see.
so that every episode is actually and that the entire story was the story of one journey
I
within the
see.
world of
I see. I
emotions.
see. I see. I see.
And so Charlie, in the first episode, go into Asphalia and only come out of Asphalia after all those
Episodes.
things happened.
I see.
But there's several reasons then why I moved away from that. Is first that I vastly underestimated the time it takes to make to make such a game,
I see.
because I thought, okay, point and click is relatively simple in terms of game mechanics. So all we need to do is to write a story, and then we can just make it happen. But as it turns out, writing a good story is something that takes a long time, because you actually you you change things all the time,
True.
there's if I could have like a garbage bin containing all the ideas we've had that we've put away. And that's also something, coming going back to the qualities of a good team. Your team, if has to one of the hard things is that as the person who is responsible for the vision, you don't you don't ever know like for sure where you're going, but
True.
they have to have a feeling of like, that direction there you're going. But you have to also get people to accept that, okay, this thing that we've been working on for a month, we're actually just not going to use it.
True.
But the story is all the richer for having thought about those things, and maybe some of those ideas we could put them into another story,
Next.
maybe
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
but so that's one of the things that can be that can be depressing for a team as well, and that as a studio owner you have to pay attention to as well. But you have to make the best decisions for the game, but you also have to make the best decisions for the team. So that's a balance to find.
True.
And
True.
sometimes, the game takes a hit for the team, and sometimes the team takes a hit for the game. Um, but anyways, so that's when I realized that we are not going to be able to do this
I
DLC kind
see.
of
I see.
approach.
I see. I see.
But
I
we
see.
had already released Asphalia Anger when I kind of decided to not go, not so. Uh, the initial ending of Asphalia Anger was not a real ending. And if you actually look at the comments, at the reviews on Steam, they would say, "Oh yeah, but it's not finished." So that's one of the things that I say, okay, people want a finished game, a finished story, especially if the next episode is only going to be in 2 years. So we need to change the ending, and so we changed the ending of the game after the release, to create another ending that was a real ending, which was kind of a challenge because we had recorded all the voices already. So
I
we
see.
could only do this much because it's very expensive to go back into
I see. I see.
recording
I see.
studio. um, but yeah, so I moved away from that idea of one long story. But that was for the better because this allowed us to really say, okay, every story is completely independent. People can play the first one, and there might be references to the other episode that people will recognize. But if they haven't played it, they just wouldn't know that they should have
I
recognized
see.
something.
I see. I see. I see.
And so yeah, that's the thing. So now every episode is separate, and so that also allows us to have a different code base to change the way we approach something, and we might completely reconsider how the next story is being told. Maybe it's still going to be point and click, but maybe it's going to be something different. Though I don't think I want to move away from the point and click because we took a long time to get that expertise as well.
True. 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 True.
Um, but yeah, there's other ways to tell stories, and maybe we might explore that.
I see. I see. So, from my best understanding, at Anger, there is like two endings, right? As you said. So, because there is the
Yeah,
original ending and the new ending, right?
yeah. And so now when you play the game, you have the new ending, but the original ending is still out there.
I see.
Uh, but there's something you have to do specifically to see it.
Oh, okay.
So
I
it's
see.
it's kind of
Sorry.
a surprise if you get enough stickers.
For
I'm
the
not gonna
core
say
fans,
more.
for the core fans out there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice,
For
nice,
those who
nice.
go the extra mile.
True, 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 very true. Again, a more personal thing or topic to discuss for me would be, I believe that all of us creators who create our own craft, they always intends to put our inner self into the craft to make, even if it's like experiencing like sadness or happiness in our life, loss or love. Is this statement of mine true for your story as a game developer? And if yes, what examples could you name or tell us about?
So I personally think it's impossible to not write about
I
yourself.
agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And just like it is impossible to not act about yourself when it comes to
True.
acting. I sometimes have arguments with people because I say like they say, "Oh, this actor can be such a different person," and I say, "No, he's just being that
Himself or
person
herself.
he is with
Exactly.
that specific filter." You know,
Exactly.
uh, because if you want to talk about experiences, how can you talk about something else than your own, right?
Exactly.
And you have to dig into your soul to what does it mean to cry, right? How do I know what it means to cry if it's not talking about one time that I cried in my life, you know?
True.
So that
True.
we can only connect to our emotions through our experiences.
Exactly.
And so I think the game is very much um, close to me, but it's also a game that the story was not. I didn't write the
I
story
see. I see.
myself.
I see.
We wrote it as a team. I was kind of like the guide of this,
I see.
um, but everyone put a little bit of them in there.
I see.
Uh, but when I create dialogues, of course, I try to give each character a personality through the dialogues, and I dig within my experiences, of course. Yes.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that. So speaking of the process of making Asphalia franchise, what was your favorite parts of the process of making these games so
Oh
far?
goodness. Oh, it's such a hard question because there's so many. It's such a long process, and there's so many things that happen. Uh, I think it's the whole of it,
I
right?
see.
If I take every single thing in isolation, I don't think I'd find more pleasure than to look at the whole.
I see.
And but if I have to nitpick something, it's just to see people play the game. And that's like, for example, you were talking about people putting out content about games.
True.
Uh, One thing that I find really sad is when people put no commentary gameplays of the game on social media,
That's very true. I agree with that. Yeah.
because I look at those and yeah, I know the game, but I know the story I'm telling,
You don't
but I
want to
wanna I
just
wanna I
rewatch,
wanna
right?
hear about what your experience
Yeah.
is, right?
Exactly.
How do
Exactly.
you live this?
Exactly.
How do you feel about when this thing happens? You know, what made you laugh? What made you indifferent as well?
True.
Because that's really important as well. Uh, I don't mind seeing someone who doesn't like the game, but if he doesn't tell me why, then that's frustrating, right?
True.
So yeah, watching people play the game, that's the most rewarding thing.
I see. So you have spoken about like your favorite parts or parts. What about the hardest parts or parts of the
Oh,
process of making these games so far?
uh, I think the hardest part is when motivation drops,
I see.
um, and so my team has the luxury to lack motivation, right? But I don't. I don't have the right to lose motivation, because if I lose motivation, then everybody loses
True,
motivation.
true, true, true.
And there was a moment um, where there was a really low in terms of morale, just generally, because yeah, you work for such a long time on a project, so there's going to be those lows. And I was like, oh, I feel down as well. So how can I get back that enthusiasm that we have
I see.
to keep going? You know, um, and that's my duty. That's my duty to the game. That's my duty to the company. That's my duty to the team. So I had to find it. I took a mentor, and we discussed for several sessions about what it is that makes me happy about the game, that makes me want to wake up and work on it. And then, yeah, from there, I kind of got through that difficult phase. But it's, yeah, those are there are some really difficult times
I
at
see.
times. uh, and I often see, on like social networks, where people talk about game dev, and younger developers ask, "Oh, how do you stay motivated on your game?" Because I don't have the motivation to work. And the real answer to that question is just go through it. You just bite through it, and there's going to be a difficult time, and motivation is necessary. Of course, you don't want to go through an entire project without ever feeling
True,
motivated by
true,
it,
true, true.
but you just owe it to the project to just go through it. And yeah, it's like that. It's raining out there, and you forgot your jacket. It's in the car. You have to go and get your jacket,
True, true, very true example. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a longer term of making a video game than just run back to get your
Yeah,
jacket,
yeah,
right? So you have to
sure.
double it up or 10 times do
Yeah,
that to realize it's raining and you're
yeah.
all wet. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. Speaking, by the way, of changes, so how have you changed the person in other territories of your own life from being a
Oh.
game developer for so many years? If, of course, there were any changes in other territories of
Oh.
your own life.
First of all, I learned a lot about not feeling as an imposter.
Okay,
That famous imposter syndrome that people keep talking about. Well, at some point when you realize that you don't have the luxury to feel like this, then you just have to kind of put it away. And if I try and be honest with myself, I'd always feel like an imposter.
I see.
Uh, but if I look back at what I've done, I say, no, I'm the only one to think that way.
Hmm,
And so that's one thing that I feel completely legitimate about what I do,
I see.
and it feels real good. Another thing as well is that I'm kind of a I wouldn't say that I'm a shy person, because I once I start talking with people, I cannot stop, as you can see.
I love that. I love that. I can tell you, I love that.
But um, one of the things is, like, I've never done any networking before,
I see.
and when I started, I knew no one in the video game industry, absolutely no one. And one thing that I learned from doing this, and developing my network, was that everyone is scared of everyone.
True.
And
That's
so
very true. That's
just
very
go,
true.
just go
That's
and
very true. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and just go and say something, and say,
Yeah.
so when I go to some place where I see, like, oh, I
It's
don't
the
know
internet,
anyone,
right? That's why
I
you
don't
feel like
know what
that.
subject I can talk to them about,
Exactly.
because when you're amongst gamers, it's okay. It's not that difficult, because they all share that
True,
passion.
true, true, true,
But I
true.
was, like, recently at my accountant threw a party, because they had moved, and so they had invited all their clients, but I know none of their clients. So I was like, okay, I discussed with my accountant a little bit, but then I was there. Okay, I know no one, so I just went to a table where there was this guy who was kind of looking, you know, had that look in the depths of nothingness, and I thought, okay, this guy, maybe there's a chance that he's like me, he knows no one. So I say, hey, I bet you're like me, you know no one here. He said, oh yes, and we started discussing. And then another guy came along and said, hey, are you like us? You know, and that was funny. So that's something that I didn't think I could do, but that I had to do, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do.
True, true.
And also going to conventions. and selling things to passerbys. That's one thing that was really difficult and still difficult, because like you see people they're chatting, and okay, either they pass in front of your booth and they'll never know that you even existed, or you just say hello and you try and talk to them, and grab their attention, and maybe they'll take some time to listen to what you have to say. If you don't take that chance, it's not going to happen.
True.
And yeah, so that's one thing, that's the thing that changed the most.
I see.
And also, I had never been a boss, so that's also something that you learn, and that's not easy. But yeah, being accountable for people's well-being,
True. You have to
and
be responsible for
their
that, right? So
development. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that is very scary. It's still scary every day, but yeah, that's something you learn.
True. True.
Excuse me.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you, by the way, for your honesty again. I really appreciate that.
Let's see if I have some water.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, looks like someone has had a question or a comment.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, comments. He was saying that.
I'm gonna try and pronounce it in my best Hungarian.
Okay.
Hali majd kuldok net képet, videót, kész a
Nice.
gépem is.
Nice, 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 nice. Yeah, he's.
Was that approximately correct?
Yeah, it was. It was. It actually was. Nice, nice, nice. I appreciate it. Yeah, he did his like he remade his computer now, and he's planning to like send me picture and video about his computer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's so
Oh,
hyped
okay.
about his new computer. He like set up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting these bots. These bots. Oh my god.
Oh,
Okay.
that was a quick response from the
Yeah,
moderator.
yeah, yeah. Twitch is like,
Good bot.
yeah,
Good
Twitch is
mod.
like full of full of these like promotion stuff and everything. Yeah, like promote your craft, like buy this, buy that. Yeah, I don't know. Dead internet. Again, sadly. Yeah.
There's still a live part of internet. We're here.
Yeah, true, true, true. And I
We're
hope
well
that
alive.
true, true, very true, very true. So since I love, by the way, physical editions and also like console editions of the games, because I was always like more of a console guy, but I also played on PC as well, and I play some PC. Two questions from this topic: are you planning to like release your games for other platforms as well as like consoles? Or and also from this topic, the other question goes like, are you planning to like have physical editions? Because I'm not aware if there were any physical editions or like collector's editions of your games
So,
so far.
uh, so like I said, we have a card game. So, and the story of the card game is kind of a funny one. So, back on the subject of promoting a game, uh, and my target audience. So I thought, okay, my target audience is mostly children,
I see.
but selling a game to children is impossible if you don't have like an already established IP. Like
True.
if I made a Peppa Pig game, it would be easy, but it's not a Peppa Pig game; it's Asphalia. So how do children? How do children get to know the game and get to discuss the game? Because how do children buy things? How do children want things? Because they discuss it at school.
True.
And so I thought, okay, I need to get into schools. And how do I do that? I already know that I have an interesting subject that the game is talking about. But like I said, it's not a story that tells you what to understand about it. It's a story that you can figure things out if you take the time to think about them, right? And to
True.
to look at them. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a card game that invites discussion around the things that happen in the game, and so progressively that idea evolved into a card game to communicate
I see.
about emotions,
I see.
and where you use the different cards to talk about the emotions of the characters in the game, and to talk about your own emotions as
I
well,
see.
and so progressively this became first an idea of an educational support that people could like download on our website to a card game, and then I went to a an educational fair with a prototype, and someone like he jumped on me and said, "I want to buy it," and I say, "Well, wait, it's a prototype. I only have one, please." But he was taking his wallet, say, "How much do you want?" I said, "Wait, it's not out yet." And that's when I realized, okay, there's something we have to do here.
True.
We have to go up in terms of quality and in terms of ambitions with that card game. Um, and so yeah, we made that card game, and I discovered the wonderful world of physical retail, which is completely different from video games. And it's another thing that I had to learn from zero because I knew nothing about how do you print a card game, how do you store, how do you sell it. Oh, I need to make a website that I can sell this on. And what if I need to translate it because now it only exists in French? If I want to sell it to the UK or the United States, how do I get it there? Because shipping costs are way too. I mean, I cannot have an American buy the game and me shipping it to him because
True.
it costs like $20, but with
True.
$20 of shipping, so it's not going
True.
to work, right? So I
True.
have to figure out, oh, I have to print it in the United States so I don't pay any customs. But then I need to, there's so many things, right? And it's actually a very complicated world. And also retail, boy, retail. So Steam takes 30% a 30% cuts on
Project
games, right?
sales, yeah.
And when we think about it, it's like, oh, it's super expensive, right? Well, here's the thing. When I sell a card game to a retail store, they pay half the price, so it's like 50% off. But it's a lot of work to get the game into a retail store, and they're probably going to take like 5 to 10 copies a year. um, so it's not worth the investment of going to every single store and
True.
and selling them my one game. They're going to
True,
take
very
10
true.
copies off per year. So you have to find someone to do the distribution because they have the contacts with all the retail stores, but the distribution also takes a percentage off. So and also because it's a physical game, it has production costs that you don't have. Reproducing a game costs nothing. It's making the game that costs a lot, but then reproducing it is free essentially. And so in the end, I only make $1 of margin on a card game that is sold $20 to the final customer. I mean, it's euros, but you get the idea, right?
True.
And so that is very 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 that's something that you only discover progressively. So initially I thought, oh, okay, my game costs five euros to make, so I'm just going to sell it 10 euros. And then, oh yeah, but there's VAT, so I need to sell it a little more expensive. Oh yeah, but there's shipping as well. And if I charge shipping, then people are not gonna buy it. So I have to increase the price and say, hey, shipping is free, right? Um, but then, okay, then you want to get into retail stores. So, oh, retail stores are going to take half the price if I want to keep my margin, because the retail stores you also have to pay for the delivery, and all those things add up. And then okay, my game is 20 euros now.
True.
And but this is now, the card game is bundled with Asphalia Anger, and you have
Oh.
an activation key with
Oh,
it.
okay.
So Asphalia Anger is distributed physically, but only in French speaking
I see.
areas.
I see.
Uh, but if the success of the game justifies it, then other languages might be in order. I'm thinking of English first, of course. But yeah, I have like people who've seen the card game say, "Oh, are you going to translate it to German?" I say, maybe one day, but I wish it was that simple,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it would make sense, right, to have these cards games or card game at schools, right, in every
Yeah,
country. In my opinion, it would make sense, and Yeah, yeah. But the process of making it happen is the real devil, in my opinion. Like you said, yeah.
Yeah, it's not about the idea. It's always about the execution, right?
True, true, true. That's why I always say that you mentioned the price of it. Like I always say that it's never good to judge something by its price, right? Because people do not realize how much work it is put
Oh, yeah.
into a project when they judge something by a price, right? So
Yeah, and that's a bit of the part of the drama of Asphalia is it's a narrative game and it has a finite scope. So I hear people say, "Oh, it's too expensive because it's not going to give me as many hours of enjoyment as a Hades for the same price or for half the price," you know. And you're like, "Yeah, but it's totally unrelated." So
yeah,
because we still need to be able to make a living, right?
yeah.
But 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 price is a thing, you know, and that's it is what it is.
I would say
The
sadly. I
client's
would say
perception,
sadly.
yeah, but the client is the king at the end of the day,
Sadly.
right?
I always say
And
sadly.
if your price is not going to be low enough to sell
True,
things, but
true, true.
sometimes your price is too low to sell as well.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
one of
because
the things with the card
sometimes
game.
what people do not realize is that you have to respect your vision as a creator enough to put a normal price, right, and not put a very low price. Because if you
Yeah,
put a very low price, then might some people from the audience understand it like it's not that of a long game or not that of a good game, right? So it also can tie up to that like thinking or mentality, in my opinion, which is sad. Again, I always say this, that it's very sad because like at the end of the day, I remember when I was a kid, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games cost a lot back then as well. So it wasn't like gaming in general was never a cheap hobby, in my opinion, to pursue. So it was always like that you had to pay the price for the games, right? So I don't know. It's weird. It was always weird for me to see people saying that this game is bad just because they can afford it. And I had so many like conversations with people. They couldn't afford the game and they were saying that it's bad. And I was asking them, "Have you ever played this game?" "No, I couldn't buy it because I didn't have the money." Then hey, it's not a bad game, right? Just don't have the money. And
yeah,
that's ego again. That's ego play from the people, right? So
yeah. There's so many things,
exactly, exactly.
and actually, gaming, all thing relatively speaking, gaming has never been cheaper than now.
Exactly.
Uh,
And salaries were
because
way
there's
lower, not to forget that, right? So
yeah, but everything goes up, right?
true,
The
true,
salaries do go up, even
true,
if they don't go up very fast, but they do
true,
go up. Cost of life goes up,
true,
right?
true.
But we're selling games today cheaper than we were selling them in the 90s. So
Exactly.
and that's to me that's a bit the drama of free to play is a big issue
True.
because okay, some games because it kind of forces the industry to move towards
Free to
uh
play.
towards dark patterns,
Yeah.
and okay, your game is free, but actually it's not free. You just got to pay this
Exactly.
and that,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
And and players are unhappy about it. They're I mean, no one is happy about it. uh but it's and that's the difficult part about um about business in general. But it's that you're kind of forced by the market and you really feel that the market
Exactly.
is forcing you to do something,
Exactly.
and the
Exactly.
only way to
Exactly.
not
Because
do it
if
is
not,
to be
then you will.
stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Because, like, for example, I was trying to find some investors for the company, and some people were interested, and they say, oh yeah, but if we're going to invest, then you have to change your business model because we want you to have a subscription model. I said, how do I do a subscription model? This is a narrative game. Like, it's like It's like paying a
Yeah,
subscription
yeah,
to watch Snow White.
yeah,
You're not
and
gonna pay a subscription to
yeah,
watch
and
Snow
it's
White.
very interesting this topic that you brought up, and I can totally agree with you on that because I had this conversation with so many players that said that they feel like the way to go for nowadays developers should be free to play because it's more accessible for the players and for the developers as well. But I don't believe in that because I feel like what players do not understand is that free to play model is only working for popular games. But if a game doesn't have that wider audience who could really like stabilize the developers for a long run, then the marketing side of those developers will fail and they won't have the money to pay the bills and to like work on the game for so many years, right? And if you have a game for example for 20 or $60, you will still have like a stable income for first weeks or first months or first year, but it will be like a stable thing. But it's not like a sure thing if you are going to free to play model and you are monetizing everything through skins and everything. Like for example Fortnite didn't, it was successful, yes, because it's like the biggest battle royale game in the history, right? It started the whole genre. But you can't force everyone to be Fortnite, and that's how I feel like a lot of like um companies failed, in my opinion. That's why we are seeing so many like companies closing down as well, because they are trying the same marketing model, right, to force them, because it might be successful, but at the end of the day I feel like they already knew that it won't be, right? So that's the hard part of like realizing that sometimes, like you said, you have to be stubborn and you have to believe in your vision and how you would like to sell it, because if you change the whole vision, that like you said, it will end up being for nobody, because you are trying to aim for everybody. And it's very weird because like I also believe that there are games like I mentioned Fortnite which can be appealing for everybody, but it's not appealing for everybody because the whole core game is appealing for everybody. It is appealing for everybody because it has segments that is appealing to some audience, right? There are Disney collabs, Lego collabs, now Raising collabs, core battle royale tournaments. So it has aspects of the whole universe, the whole audience that they could gather around. But for example, a story driven game won't be able to do that, right? So it will only have like some core aspects that can tie up to a wider audience.
Yeah, but when you talk about like the Lego and Marvel, etc., we're getting into the territory of IPs, the way IPs are marketed is also very different, because you
True.
could make any game around a popular IP,
True, true, true,
and people will buy it
true.
because of that foundation
True,
that is
very
it is
true.
built
It's already
on.
there and people have the knowledge and the trust of those IPs,
Yeah,
right?
and they're gonna try games around that IP until they find one that is
True,
good.
true,
Uh, but one of the things as well is how the marketplaces work. That kind of drives towards quantity over quality of
true,
users.
true,
Uh, on mobile, I mean, it's discovery, right? So of course you can discover a game through marketing, but everyone wants the marketing to be free, and the best free marketing is organic discovery. But to be discovered organically, well, every marketplace has their little rules, but the core rule is success. So if you make a free game, you're going to have more downloads. You're getting more downloads. You're getting more visibility because people see it. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. That there's actually two sections. There's free apps and paid apps, which you can actually which have their own little algorithm, and actually you cannot turn a paid app into a free app just like that, um, because of that reason. And when you think about Steam, for example, well, if you don't have lots of traction on release day, then you're going to be buried, and your game is never going to surface again in discovery queues,
true.
except you can like activate some stuff that give you an extra visibility round, but that visibility round is going to be dependent on all the other people doing a visibility round at that same time, and their own success. And so it's really like, and that's one of the big stakes, is to find a price that people will find good enough to take the risk on your game
True.
when it releases.
True.
Because
Very true.
if people, and that's the issue we had with Asphalia Anger, is I didn't want to compromise on the price because I thought I was putting a right price at 14 euros, but it was too expensive. Because first it was a very short game, so it was like Asphalia Anger is much shorter than Asphalia Fear. It takes about an hour to finish, and so people were saying, "Yeah, but it's too short, so it's not worth the price," and so people were not buying it. So now for Fear, we have to pay attention, not being too too confident with the price. So
So
it's gonna come out at 8 euros. Uh, but I don't sell it the same price on my website than I sell it on Steam for those
I see.
reasons, because it's not the same public. It's a different public, and also it's not the same game entirely, because on Steam there's DRM, and on my website there's no DRM, because
True.
I want
True.
schools to be able to buy the game and then put it on several computers in the school
Exactly.
without having to
Exactly.
pay 10
Exactly.
licenses,
That
things like that.
also is getting a huge topic around like gamers. Yeah, that they cannot really own the game that they buy, just the license, and even then, like Steam can like say that no, we are not selling this game anymore, even if you bought it. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which store was it that said that they were gonna? But I think Steam actually is very adamant that studios do not let players down in this way. I think Good Old Games now also have a special policy about games not being dropped.
Yeah.
So I think the platforms who care about gamers, they're really thinking about it. The
True. True.
platforms who don't care about gamers, like Google Play and Apple, I don't think they're going to do anything about it. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. I remember that hysteria and drama around Telltale games. If you know that drama when they like started to like not letting
yeah,
players
not release the
re-download,
seasons. Yeah.
yeah, and not re-download Minecraft games, if I'm correct about it, like the Telltale Minecraft DLCs. Yeah, and then they like put back in on the stores like PlayStation Store and Xbox, yeah, Microsoft Store. It's interesting. Yeah, that's when people realize that I was always saying that you don't really own the game. That's why
Hmm.
that's why in my opinion physical copies of the games are like having their golden age again. Like there's so many companies that are built around this idea of making games into physical disc forms, like right, like limited run games, strictly limited, and all these companies now.
Yeah, but that's I mean, physical distribution is really very complicated,
True,
and
true,
it's only accessible for bigger publishers,
true, true, exactly.
and it becomes more and more complicated because retail stores are also having a hard time, so they're
True,
also closing down.
true,
But it would be a nice way to save them as well.
true,
But I mean, you can see with GameStop, they have a hard time surviving,
true.
and only because of some recent developments in the world of investment, they're still there. But
Exactly.
that's the thing. It's a difficult thing to bet on, in terms of strategy, to say, okay, we're gonna have a physical game.
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like the industry is really like trying to always market in that way where they would like to have it. Like if they want people to buy digital games and they want for the AAA price to bigger up, then they will market the whole industry towards like, okay, you should buy digital and we do not have discs. And then
Yeah,
they will like market it back to the disc versions. Because like if you see all the like big games and indie games as well, like all these games are way more expensive if you buy them digitally, especially like AAA games, which is very weird, right? So you buy
yeah,
a game like for I don't know 120 euros, and you buy the same game on disc version like 70 or 60 euros. It's very weird. Like,
Well,
why?
yeah, and AAA games are expensive to buy because they're sold physically. Like just for the same reason as I explained, because the physical you have the distributor and you have the retailer.
True,
So
true, true,
there's about 70% of the final buying price that goes
true,
away. And there's also the production costs. The
true.
production costs for AAA are okay because the more you produce, the less
The
expensive it is.
less
Like my card game
expenses.
is €5 per unit because I printed it in Belgium. I didn't print it in China,
I see.
and because I printed 5,000 copies and I didn't print 20,000.
I see.
But prices go down very steeply the more you print. Uh, but because of those 70% that go away, uh, and you cannot have the physical copy being the digital copy being in competition with the physical copy. Both have to be priced the same way on the different platforms.
True.
So you have to say, okay, so if I'm going to sell my game physically, I have to have a much higher price so that I can compensate for those 70% I'm not going to make. So that's why physical games are more expensive.
True, 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 true. We discussed here a lot of topics. Before I will go into some questions, are you down to answer some questions from the chat as well?
Yeah, sure. Yes, of
Thank you,
course.
thank you, thank you. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions. Let me know, let me know. Hölgyek, urak, hogyha bármilyen kérdés van, kérdezzetek nyugodtan. If you have any questions, let us know, let us know. Let us know.
Köszönöm szépen.
Nice, nice, nice. I appreciate that, by the way. I will also include the Steam pages of your games. Let me do that because I did that on Discord, but let me do it here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know if there is any question. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Okay. So more personal question while we are waiting for questions from the chat would be, do you think like you found yourself by being a game developer now in your life, and now that you made games and you are making games, since you told us that it was always a dream of yours, right? That you are at the right place and the right time, or is it something that you always would like to challenge yourself and you still have some things to solve in your life to feel like you're at the right place and the right time? How do you feel about this?
I think it's an interesting question. I I don't think I don't think I want to find myself
I see.
because it's so exciting to not know who you are
I see.
and to still have to figure it out. So I wouldn't say that I found myself.
I see.
I found a part of myself that I'm glad I discovered. But I'm one to think that I'm whatever has happened in the past and whatever I've done that I might regret brought me to where I am today. And so yes, maybe there are some things that I'm not happy. I've done. I think, oh, I should have done this differently. But all in all, it made me who I am today, and I have to be grateful for that. And I'm just happy about the journey, and to keep having a journey. That's the most important thing to me. Like, is my journey still continuing?
True, true.
Um, so yeah, that's I haven't found myself.
Thank you.
yet.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if, by the way, you would have to name or talk about like an ultimate core message that is the games are centered around this message of what you always wanted to give to the players, what would be that message that was always there and there in your games?
I think that the message of Asphalia is that your emotions are a journey, and it's not it's not something that is and that stops being. It's something that is continuous, and they make you who you are. That's essentially the big message in there. Just take the time to listen to yourself.
See, thank you for that. For framing, having a frame for our interview, we started by you talking about the educational games, right? And it was there
Yeah.
for you in your mind that you would like to make educational games and also fun games for your family, children, and also for other kids. Framing this and closing this frame with the same topic, why do you think like there is less and less educational games out there in the video game industry?
Oh, I don't think there's less educational
Okay,
games, but I think that one of the issues is that people who want to make educational games are not necessarily the people who want to make games, if that makes sense.
I see.
So they want to use games as a way to dis- distribute educational content, but at the core, they're educators.
I
So
see.
and that's actually something that, like, uh, for example, when I see the competition of my card game, all the other card games, uh, it is like, oh, it's made by a psychiatrist, it's made by a speech therapist, or it's made by someone who is a professional
I see.
at the subject,
I see
but
what
not
you're
someone
saying.
who is a
Yeah,
professional at making games. And so that's what I think is lacking, is people who make games should, because it's often seen as kind of a sub a subtype of games, oh,
true.
it's not really a game, it's an educative
No, I
game.
don't believe in that.
Just
Don't
like,
get
no,
me
no, no,
wrong.
no, no, I know you don't, but it's just something that, people, it's like what graphic novels are to people who like books.
True, true,
People who
true, true,
like books, they look at graphic novels and say, yeah, they're not really books, graphic novels are for kids. And they, no, it's not true.
true, true.
It's not true. But it's just that they're not necessarily made by the right people. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to defend. But it's difficult because when I try to find some funding, for example, well, one of the fundings um groups, they said, oh yeah, but you're not a psychiatrist, so we think it's not gonna work because you talk about something that you don't know. Well,
uh,
yeah, but I've hired someone to talk to me about that,
yeah.
so that part is covered.
And it's also stupid,
But
right?
I know
Because
how to
it's
make
like
games.
they would be saying that you are a person who are not understanding emotions, which is stupid in my opinion, right? So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's nonsense to me to hear that, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. Okay. I remember, by the way, a question that a person wanted to ask, but it's not in the chat, but she asked it before our interview. So
uh,
I will ask it. So, was it intentional, by the way, as a choice for the main character to look similar like Little Prince, or at least have some similarities to him?
Little
Because
Friends.
yeah,
I
because
know, because I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna have to look at
is
it
it
now.
is it
Little Friends.
is it Little Prince or I think it
Little
is.
Friends.
Yeah, the Little Prince. Yeah.
Oh, the Little Prince. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Partly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. The Little Prince was one of my influences for the game. So
Then
definitely
the
yes.
answer, then the questioner, yeah, got it right. Okay, okay, I will let her
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
There's. I mean, there's. It's not just that. It's. We we didn't necessarily want to have Charlie look like that.
I
We
see.
tried several different visuals, including many different skin colors and things like that. Um, and we wanted to find a character that could. It's a bit silly, but it's we want to have a character that could like blend well within any kind of background.
I see.
And so when we tried like darker skin tones, it didn't quite work as well as we wanted.
I see.
And so that was just from a artistic standpoint,
I see.
um, why it why it went like this. But deep down, I was happy to have Charlie look a little bit like the Little Prince.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. We touched here, by the way, a lot of topics. Is there anything that you would like to add or talk about that we haven't touched this topic before I will go into some closing questions?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I could think of 1,000 different
You
topics.
can, you
Maybe
can, you can, you
uh,
can. Feel free to do that.
maybe you can talk a little bit about the game itself
Okay.
and the approach and the changes as well between Asphalia Anger and Asphalia Fear and what
Okay.
we've learned from one to the other. So one of the things about as Father Anger, it was a first game, of course, but it was very very linear, and
I
it
see.
was linear not just in terms of the storytelling, but also in terms of how you could move the character
I
around,
see.
because it was most of the time it was just in a straight line. And even though we had some depth, but it was really like a long corridor that you go through and go back, and we wanted to add some depth to it. So we had to change a couple of things regarding the art direction that makes actually Asphalia Fear look a little flatter than Asphalia Anger.
I see.
Paradoxically, because we get to give it more depth, we have to make it look flatter in a way. Um, but and another thing as well was I don't know if you've played the game yet
I
or
played a bit,
where
yeah.
you've played. But so one of the things that I liked about the first episode, but that we didn't really go deep into, was the mini games. So that's one of the things we wanted to pay more attention to,
I
was
see.
the mini games in Asphalia Fear. One thing that people often say is that, oh yes, but I it's named Fear, but it's not scary. And it's true. I didn't want to make it scary because it's not about the game or the story being scary. It's about fear itself. And fear is embodied by every character that you meet in different ways. What are we afraid of in life, we can be afraid of losing someone. Oh well, that's Donut, that's a little ghost who lost his cat, or that's Charlie who's lost the puppies, or what are we afraid? We might be afraid of not being important. That's Naiferatu, right?
True.
Every character kind of impersonates different forms of fears or different absences of fear as well, and and that's how I want to talk about emotions, is through characters who
I see.
embody those
I
emotions.
see.
So yeah, that's and the game releases on January 14th.
True, true, true. It's very close, so don't forget to be on the lookout for that. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. It's a very interesting topic about emotions, talking about emotions, because I feel like nowadays there are a lot of people who, even they have emotions, they are not paying close attention to realize what those emotions are and why are they happening. Like you also have been talking about this. And I feel like it's a huge society problem nowadays, that people are not trying to analyze themselves and not trying to get over through those emotions and like educate themselves why it happens to them, right? They just live it through and that's all, and they don't care about it. And those emotions, probably because of this fact that they are not trying to realize why they were there, they will come back at some point of their life. That's why I always say that from my perspective, past is always going to haunt us if we are not dealing with it right, in the right way, right? So
Well, there's two dimensions. There's your own emotions, but there are also others' emotions,
true.
and I think that it's one of the things that that is also very hard is to um, we often hear say that, oh, but nowadays you're not allowed to express your emotions anymore. But why is that? Why is it that we feel that we are not allowed to express our emotions? It's not because of how we feel about our emotions. It's about how we feel others feel about our emotions.
True, true,
And
very true.
so and also when we receive someone else's emotions, well, it can be and there's some form of discomfort, right? Because
Exactly, exactly, yeah.
you cannot communicate the same way with someone
Exactly.
who has a very emotional moment, whether he is happy or whether he's
Or
sad.
sad, yeah. Yeah.
It's the same, right? Because someone who's super happy is also difficult to communicate with.
Especially if the
uh
other person is sad at the same time, right? So
Yes, yes,
yeah,
because you feel like they're not acknowledging your
yeah,
emotions.
yeah,
So
exactly.
one of the things that I've learned by through this project and by listening to what Anne Catherine, so the emotional coach, told me about emotions, is to take the time to allow the others to have their emotions. And with my children, for example, okay, I'm trying to teach them it's okay, you can cry. Uh, but there's your emotion, and then there's your behavior. And emotions or behavior are linked, but the thing is, you cannot choose to have an emotion or to not have it. You can say stop being sad. That doesn't exist, right?
Exactly.
Don't don't
Exactly.
be sad. No, don't
Exactly.
be sad. How can I not be sad? I am sad, right?
Exactly.
But don't hit me. You cannot hit me, or you cannot scream at me.
Exactly.
That's something that you can choose to do or to not do. And
Exactly.
so, and that you can have some form of control. And if you just can't help, if you need to scream, by all means, go scream. There's a basement, there's an attic. You
Exactly.
choose, or you can go
Exactly.
outside if you want.
Exactly.
And then, uh, and then, and then when you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. But right now, we're not in a it's this is not the right moment for a conversation, right? We'll
Exactly.
talk later. So yeah, that's one thing. Like accepting others' emotions is probably the key to helping them accept their own.
Exactly. It's very weird, by the way, because I remember that's when it's very true what you said. But for me, I have this very weird and honest example about this topic that I remember myself seeing the Lego movie, and the ending really hits me because I believe that for me and for everyone else, childhood and our inner child should be very important to pursue, and that's how we been able to like. Secure our very positive and very like believing and open-minded personality. And when I saw that ending, it really hits me in my heart, and I really cried very very hard during those some seconds of the ending of that animated movie. And next to my right, I remember that there was a father with his little son. He might have been like 5 or 6 years old, sitting next to me, and the father was very like shocked that I was crying like an adult. And for me it was like I felt uncomfortable for crying because he was shocked of my emotions.
Yeah.
And I always discuss this example of this weird little like I don't know emotion that you're trying to let your emotions go through a form of crying, like you said. That's the act.
Hmm.
And still, if there are people who are not comfortable by your emotions, you will feel also uncomfortable by them seeing you crying, right? So it's so weird,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And but that is something that is changing, but it's not necessarily changing in the right way.
Exactly.
Because it's now people are starting saying like, oh, you have to accept my emotions, which is a good thing. It's true, people have to accept your emotions, but people want to force people to accept their emotions. Say,
Exactly.
now you have to accept my emotions, but then ignoring what the other person is going through, that they feel uncomfortable with. So there has to be some sort of balance. But it's good that
Exactly.
things are changing. People are being aware of it.
Exactly.
Um, and that's what maybe Asphalia can help with. I don't know.
True.
I
I
hope
believe
if it
so.
can,
I believe so. I believe so. Like
if I
we
can
this
change one person's life, I'm happy.
exactly. Okay, before I will go into the closing question itself, any questions from the chat? Any questions? Any questions? I know it's work hours, but don't just be lurkers out there. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know if you have any time to ask some questions. Bármilyen kérdés, hölgyek, urak? Any questions? Any questions? Let us know. Let us know. Any questions? Bármilyen kérdés? Let us know. Let us know. I also highlighted the Steam pages of the games, so don't forget to check out those as well. Any questions? You will be able to ask questions in my Discord server, ladies and gentlemen, so don't forget that if you miss asking questions as
I have a suggestion. We could sing because I told you I know a Hungarian Christmas song, so we could sing a Christmas song while people think about their questions.
True. Okay.
So it's so my grandma. I told you in chat before, but my grandma is Hungarian. Was Hungarian. She passed away, unfortunately,
I'm sorry to hear
a
that.
while back. I mean, life is like that.
True.
It ends at some point, unfortunately. But she had a great life, and she was surrounded by all her children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. So she lived a happy life. But at Christmas, we were a pretty big family, so we'd go all around the Christmas tree and we'd sing Menből az Angyal.
Yeah.
So for you, I will sing the first verse of Menből az Angyal in my best Hungarian. Sorry, I don't. I used to have a translation, but I don't know what it exactly means. So I just from phonetic memory. So let's sing.
Okay.
If you don't mind me singing.
No, of course. I will sing along with you.
Menjből az angyal, lejött hozzátok, pásztorok, hagyj Betlehembe, sietve menvén, lássátok. It's a weird experience to sing along with a delay.
I didn't have a delay, by the way. I didn't have a delay.
We were singing with me.
Yeah,
I don't know what the experience was for the chat, by the way. So sorry, chat.
Thank you for that. I really respect that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It didn't prompt any questions though, which it should have.
No, it's work time. It's work time. So usually around this time, all of my people are like working, and it's especially Christmas time. But they are always like asking questions in Discord. Yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
My pleasure.
Thank you, my friend.
It's appropriate. It's almost Christmas.
True. And also ties that to our core mentality and mindset about life. So I really appreciate that. I miss those Christmas times with all my grandparents and big family singing together. So yeah.
Oh, you don't get to see your family much?
No, I'm living with my grandmother and my mother, so I'm with them, but I miss like my grandfather who like passed away when I was 12. So yeah, we used to sing along with him as well. So yeah, I it's always like a sad thing to remember, but also always a happy thing to remember, because I still, like I said to you, I talked about it, I always try to secure those memories and be a kid in my adult form, so yeah. Thank you for that again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for singing along.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So my closing question, from all your experiences throughout as a game developer and also what would be your advice for those people who, because sometimes it's the first step to make, what would be your advice for these people have these dreams, but they are scared to take those first steps.
Okay, so my advice would be you have it. If just don't rush in, right? If you want to burn out, rush.
Sure.
I see, for example, I play the piano. I see so many people who are starting to play their age, and they play very difficult pieces after a year. Or they want to learn those pieces. They start hours a day, and I've been playing the piano, and I practice about a half an hour a day. When I do practice at all, uh, steady wins the race. So
Sure.
if you to patient, you're not in this industry because it's Asphalia might look. It takes a team of 4 people to 2 years to make it. So you can see so many people saying, "Oh, I my game and I finally finished it." You know, when people. So it's really a long road. So take your time, meet people, go do some game jams, and challenge yourself to people you don't know.
Sure.
Business. Also, figure out someone who runs a business, or do I want to who makes games? Because at the same time,
Sure.
set of responsibilities. So if you want to be a studio, then you better be learning everything you can uh, about read some law books to see how
Sure.
read some contracts to see what contracts.
Say right.
Yes, well, yeah. I mean, like him or not, but Elon Musk once said that being a CEO is about doing the job that no one wants to do. It's true. There's so
Very
many
true.
things that I wish to do, but I have to do.
True.
So yeah, just take your time and start being interested in things. Be curious. Be curious. If you don't have curiosity about like different medias, go play board games, read books, read visual novels, or play all kinds of games. Um, that would be like my set of advices, but mostly don't rush it. It's if you don't have the patience, then it's not a job for you.
Thank you, my friend. Like I said, I'm very grateful that you were here with us and with all your honesty and singing together, and also that you told me at the beginning of our interview that you had a bit of a headache and you still were here with that headache. So I really appreciate that. It really means a lot to
Hopefully
me.
someone will clip it.
True. I hope I will. If no one else, I will. Yeah, and hopefully our Christmas spirit will go to others as well and help in hard or happy times as well. Yeah. Thank you, my friend, and thank you for the people who were here with us. If you couldn't ask questions, you will be able to ask questions on my Discord or in my Discord, sorry, as well. And yeah, don't forget
Thanks for the
to
love, literally Dex.
yeah
Is it literally Dex?
yeah
I know
yeah
a guy. I know a guy who's named Dex, but I don't know if literally Dex is Dex or if it's literally Dex. It's just literally Dex.
literally
So he's
Dex.
not
I think
Dex.
he's not the same, but might be. Who knows? Who knows? We are living in a very little universe, right? We always realize
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you
Vampire
again.
Survivor forever. If he's
True,
Dex.
true, very true, very true, very true. Thank you, my friend, for being here with
Thanks for
us
having
and
me.
with all your honesty. Like I said, I will need some more of your minutes of stream, but for those who are
Yeah, sure.
watching us here live, or will be watching back the VOD version saved on Twitch, or later the edited version with intro, outro, and gameplay segments that we talked about on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. And like I said, don't forget to check out the games, Asphalia games on Steam. And thank you everyone who joined us for today's episode. And thank you, my friend, that you joined us for my channel and for my Dev Live show. Have a great day, night, or evening, depending where you live, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.